So definitely encourage you to, since that is where I got my education, check out the course notes at the University of Arizona College of Optical Sciences. Great question, Fred.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Paris.
Señorita Dominguez, ¿qué pasó? ¿Cómo estás? Me hablo muy poquito español. In fact, that was the extent of it right there. That's all I know. That's it. But speaking of dumb questions, you mentioned earlier, well, for a little bit of levity, but you did mention earlier two things about, well, I guess I echo your sentiment about ignorance, because we're all ignorant to something at some point in time. And I think one of the biggest problems with all of us humans is ego. You know, you can't learn a thing until you admit that you don't know that thing. That being said, how would you deal with someone who is vehement about the belief in the flat earth theory?
I don't know how people still believe that. But you can't, I think. And I've been asked that, and I've been asked, I know, if we in fact made it to the moon, you know, things like that. And I have to sort of take a step back and not immediately say, oh my gosh, you know, because that obviously won't be a good reaction. You know, somebody says that and then I sort of antagonize that question. That's not going to lead to knowledge and conversation, right? So you have to take a step back and say, this person is getting to this conclusion because some misinformation in their past, right? So let's try to understand, you know, so I think the best way to answer that is ask, why do you think that? You know, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. I completely agree with you, Paris. I think especially nowadays, you know, I feel like we're not asking each other questions, right? We live in a world and a country that has so many different points of view, and we get very defensive. You know, what you said is evil, what you said is wrong. Let's have a conversation. Tell me, why do you think that? You're not going to convince me necessarily. We can disagree, but isn't it fair for us to disagree? Isn't it fair for us to have different points of view? Just because your point of view is different than mine, that doesn't mean that we cannot have a conversation. We should especially have a conversation if we're going to have different points of view. So I think the first thing I do whenever I get a question that I really sort of want to bump my head against the wall is say, why do you think that? You know, and start questioning a little bit how you got to that conclusion. And I hope that by poking holes with various questions, you know, you can at least lead them to question, why do they believe this? And hope, you know, and point them into some resources. You know, have you seen any pictures from the International Space Station? You know, these pictures that clearly depict, you know, our beautiful spherically shaped planets. And let's have a conversation. Because I know that I'm ignorant in a lot of things, I have to remind myself, you know, I'll make a comment that is wrong, but I don't know that it's wrong. You know, it doesn't mean that I'm attacking you. It just means that I don't know about this. So let's try to be patient, which is hard. I have to remind myself that every day, right? Be patient with myself, be patient with other people. Be patient that we don't all have the same access to resources. We don't all have the same access to communication around us. And we don't all have the same critical thinking. That's something that really concerns me today, that we have so much access to information, and you can find, you know, you believe in flat earth, and then you can find other people that believe it, and then you're empowered because you found more people, and you know, that can be a little bit scary. So I think we can only change that if the rest of us sort of together, in not an aggressive way, just ask question. That is the fundamental, you know, behind the scientific method, right? We start by asking questions. So let's continue to ask questions. And, you know, I'm telling you this because every day I'm telling myself, let's be patient. Let's be patient. Patience is key always. That's a great question. Thank you, Paris.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And that was a great response.